Assalamu alaikum. The questioner is asking or is saying, my Muslim cat is refusing to wear a hijab. What should I do? So obviously this is a troll question, but I figured this would be a good opportunity to educate the questioner. In Islam, these commands to worship Allah in a certain way 5 times a day and wear the hijab and avoid eating pork, etc. None of those things are forbidden to animals. Animals can eat pork. They don't have to wear the hijab. They can pray. Those things are forbidden to humans and jinns because we have intelligence. Allah gave us this gift of intelligence, and we have the ability, the free will to make a choice. The animals don't have intelligence and they don't have free will. As Allah says in the Quran, in verse 24:41, Surah Al-Nur, do you not see that Allah is exalted by whomever is within the heavens and the earth, and by the birds with wings spread in flight? Each of them knows its manner of prayer and glorification, and Allah is knowing of what they do. So Allah is basically saying in this verse and other verses that all the animals are Muslim by default because they naturally worship Allah in their own way. But they're not intelligent enough to have a specific method, but it's called animal instinct. For example, the dog, when you see it walk around in circles, maybe that's its version of the prayer. It's like a 2-second thing. Maybe that's it praying to God, right? So you could find that as funny, right? The animals are going to start worshiping God 5 times. No, that's not what we're saying. We're saying each animal, by default of not having free will, worships Allah in its own way and knows that Allah exists. Call it animal instincts, just like the animal, when it gets born, it immediately begins to learn how to walk, and it follows the mother, knows exactly what to eat and what danger to avoid, etc., right? So we believe all animals are Muslim in Islam, right? All living creatures are by nature, default, is Muslim. Even the babies that are born to non-Muslim parents are born Muslim, we believe, even though they don't have the intelligence to comprehend that. And then their parents mislead them later on. That's why we say people revert to Islam. They come back to Islam. We don't say they convert to Islam. And this is why Allah says in verse 98:6, he mentions that any among the people of the book and the polytheists who reject this message, Islam, they will forever be abiding in hell. They are the worst of creatures. And this isn't to insult their manners or their intelligence or anything like that for rejecting God. The way Allah sees it is that the angels are forced to worship Allah, and humans, Muslims, freely worship Allah, and non-Muslims freely reject Allah. So the Muslims who freely worship Allah, that's better in the sight of Allah than those who are forced to do it, like the animals and the angels. So those who choose to worship Allah and those who choose to do good deeds, because to enter paradise, you have to believe in Allah and you have to do good deeds, right? So those who willingly do those things and freely do those things are better than those who are forced to do them. And those who are forced to do them are better than those who choose not to do them at all. So in that way, the non-Muslims are considered the worst of creatures in the sight of Allah because they freely reject. They are the only creations in existence that don't worship Allah and recognize His existence and do good deeds for His sake. This is the meaning of that verse. And this whole thing about us being on earth to worship God is a test, right? As Allah says in Surah Al-Isra, verse 44, the 7 heavens and the earth I'm looking at the wrong verse. In Surah Al-Azab 33:72, Allah mentions, indeed, we offered the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, and they declined to bear it and feared it. But man undertook to bear it. Indeed, he was unjust and ignorant. The trust is understood to be meant that humans will have free will and will be rewarded for good deeds and punished for evil deeds. So this is a test mankind agreed to take before being put on earth in the realm of souls. We Muslims believe in a realm of souls. There was a time before our time on earth where we existed in a form of a soul, and we testified, every single creation testified, every single human, that is, testified to the lordship of Allah, according to another Quran verse, before being put on earth, so that when they're raised up on the Day of Judgment, they won't be able to claim that this is something that never happened. And our entire life will feel like a couple hours. Because when we wake up on the Day of Judgment, we will remember our time in the realm of souls, and however long that happened, our entire life in this world will feel like a couple hours, a part of a day, or a day, as Allah says in the Quran. So don't sacrifice your hereafter just for a couple hours of your existence. Do the research, look into Islam. May Allah guide you. Assalamu alaikum.